For the Marin Council of Chambers, I'm Stephanie Plant, and this is We Are One Marin. As promised, we're back with Bishlam Bullock, the owner of Salon B, which is the only black-owned storefront on 4th Street in San Rafael.
I've been playing possum for a long time, and Amy really wanted to strike out. Amy wanted to, say a bunch, but then again, Amy's a Caucasian woman who's not afraid to strike out. I'm like, you can behave in a lot of ways that I can't. Remember that.
In part 2, we go back to Bishlam's childhood in Marin City and learn how that foundation invigorated his activism today. Welcome back. So, you are a product of Marin County, yes? Born and raised?
Born and raised.
Tell us a little bit about growing up here for you.
The interesting thing is when I do talk about growing up in Marin County, I think people, because I'm African American, are going to think that I'm going to say that I had some kind of terrible experience or it wasn't good, or because Marin is such a, homogenous, mostly white kind of place. But I grew up in Marin City. Marin City is like, as far as I knew as a child, I was living a 100% black world
identity.
And identity. So, and within that were amazing people and really caring individuals that were hardworking and had come out of the South to make it better, and they did make it better for themselves. Was there poverty within that? Yeah, there was definitely some poverty, but my particular family structure, there was no poverty involved or no lack of. My grandfather was a super hard worker. He was also a pastor, and we had pretty much everything that a middle class family would want. We had a house, we had new cars, we had new clothes, we had Christmas time, they would save up, buy us whatever we want. So I never experienced any kind of lack at all. I didn't really know anything about that. I had friends that lived in public housing that I could tell were definitely in lack or not having as much. But no one really felt like that together when we were together. It didn't feel like that. And so, yeah, my experience was great. And then as far as the diversity, it was actually really diverse in the school that I went to. I went to a very tiny school in Marin City called North Bay. North Bay was just like this little, right now it would probably be called like a charter school, but it was part of the Sausalito School District. And the kids that went to that school, their parents specifically put them in there so that, these are like 60s and 70s parents that are trying to make sure that their kids, these old hippies are making sure their kids are super diversified. So we had a combination of all the Marin City kids, which were a combination of African American, Asian, little bit of Latino, not much Latino or Spanish speaking people were in our community. And then a lot of variety of white or Caucasian people. And when I say variety, I mean on a socioeconomic level. I mean, my friends, some of them that were white were poorer than dirt. They were poorer than me. They lived on the houseboats. We didn't really understand it, but it was actually kind of more like a trailer park kind of situation on the houseboats.
Yeah.
These are people that are living off the grid, which now they call it off the grid, or people that are living off.
We didn't call it that back then.
Yeah. These are like straight up real hippies, and when then they're children. So those were a lot of my friends, and then a lot of like upper class, middle class, various people that lived in Sausalito in like condominiums and homes and houses, but they were all very like super liberal, neoliberal type of individuals. So they were really open and really, we all interacted, went to each other's homes. Like, I had the best friends and I had a huge diversity of friends. So for me, I didn't really get any kind of weird racism based stuff till much later, like out of high schools when I started to experience, or maybe junior or senior year when I travel up a little further up north and get a little bit more rural, Novato, Petaluma, Sonoma. Then we would start to interact. When we played football at Ukiah, we'd hear some stuff, the N-word, all kinds of little stuff. I'm like, hey, what's up? You know what I mean? I was really isolated. I didn't know about all that. And that's weird, too, because my uncles and stuff were all heavily into, like, the whole Black Panther movement. There was a lot going on, but we were just too young to understand all that stuff. And by the time that movement had ended, they were all, had gone through, like, the 80s in the crack era and the cocaine era. And so a lot of those people were either in prison or hadn't made it, or now were addicted. So we didn't have that core of those fundamentals. We didn't even know what was going on, and we were isolated from it. So we were just like living our little fun Marin life. I mean, all the girls liked all the dudes from Marin City. Like, if we went up and down 101, we were good. We could just, I had a girlfriend here and a girlfriend there. And some were black, some were white, some were Asian, some were this, were that. But it didn't even matter. It just, we were like living a whole different kind of lifestyle, which I don't think people, I don't know, are privy to understand what we were living. It was pretty much super smooth and very enjoyable. So, I mean, nowadays, seeing all the strife that's going on right now, it's actually kind of disappointing and shocking because we just grew up in such a different kind of environment, you know. And that's just the truth, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When did you graduate Tam High, if you don't mind my asking?
So, I'll be very technical. I'm class of 1991, but I actually did not graduate specifically from Tamalpais High School. I actually graduated from Miwah Mountain High School, which was the alternative school for the Tam High School District, because I definitely was a student that was not a student. You
were a creative student.
I was a DNF academic student, straight up. I never went to class. I didn't even understand half of the stuff that was in class. You know, if it was photography or music or whatever, I'd show up to those classes, but I never showed up to my class. My mom didn't know. It didn't have current technology like they do now. I mean, my mom would find out at the end of the year, be like,
they don't call and email and text.
Well, you could intercept the text or email or letter in the mail. So we would intercept it and just tuck it away or tear it up. Or if they would call, you have a friend like, yes, Bishlam, he's out of.
Oh, you're giving away all the tips now.
Yes, he is sick today. And, like we had all kinds of stuff back then. It wasn't like the internet, there's nothing like, no technology. So you can get away with a lot. And my mom was a busy working person. We lived with our grandparents. My mom I was a very sheltered individual. So anyways, I'd go to school kind of, but skip class and do what I want. And I graduated in 91 from Miwah Mountain High.
It's interesting that we talked about your community from your childhood and how that keeps repeating through your business.
Yes.
But then your building community. I read in an article that was written about you that you had an opportunity post all the things that happened in Michigan with George Floyd.
Right.
To find your voice in the community a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that was something. I mean, you had the George Floyd stuff going on, the Breonna Taylor stuff going on, and just kind of the whole like BLM, Black Lives Matter kind of stuff starting to emerge, as the pandemic's going on. And I had been really hyper focused on just being Bishlam in business and really focused on building up my family and, working off the hard work that my grandparents did by just being here with no education, buying a house. And, I springboarded off all of that stuff, just not having to worry about food and a place to live. I mean, that's a big thing, and so, when that started emerging, I was kind of hesitant. I had been existing in Marin for a long time, just kind of doing my own thing and being successful in business. And Amy was really like starting to feel some type of way about things. I was starting to feel some type of way about things. We're a mixed couple, I mean, my oldest child is African American and Irish, and all this stuff is emerging, and I'm starting to feel kind of like I'm going to have to make some type of stand here as far as like who I am and let people who know who I really am. All my uncles, Black Panthers, and, we grew up with Tupac, Shakur, and all that stuff, and Tam and all that. We come from a huge, lineage of like freedom fighting type individuals and very independent individuals. So, as that was emerging, our children, our younger daughters were starting to get really activated and acting up. Jade, our youngest daughter, is just super active and was like really feeling it. I mean, she comes from a diverse background as well, and so she just was really feeling passionate about it, and we were all starting to feel passionate about it. I started re-linking up with my community again. At this point, I'm not living in Marin City. I live over in Vallejo, kind of isolated from my community. So I start linking up again with Paul Austin from Play Marin, Amber Allen Pearson, who's a great person and social activist down in Marin City, and then my friend Barry Axius, who's a huge community leader up in Sacramento. We had a huge George Floyd BLM kind of event in Marin City, and that kind of sparked off like everything. Like everyone showed up to that, and we kind of all re-linked up together. Amy was there. We were all there together. And we were all just like, man, we need to do something, like. So at that point, we started kind of interacting, and Paul was speaking out from Play Marin. Barry was, Amber was. We were all activated. I hadn't really said anything yet. I hadn't really been out. And I just was kind of reluctant. And then, they had a big rally in San Rafael at the police department, you know what I mean? And
near City Hall.
Near City Hall, right in front. And that was kind of like the first time I spoke out. One thing I'll say, too, is that everybody in my group does not think or feel the same way. We're not like a monolithic, one thinking kind of way. I mean, not everybody thinks that Donald Trump was terrible for America, because actually, in some ways, a lot of my people that I know feel like it was the thing we needed to be realistic and honest about the culture of the United States, and the things that we were going through are real things, and they're really happening to us, from, police harassment to people getting killed at a disproportionate kind of way. So for us, it was just a moment to act up. So I got to reconnect with my community that way and bring it back to Marin City. And it was great. It was great because I needed that. I was feeling a little bit isolated, and Amy was really encouraging me to do that. And we're still, acting up in our own ways. But we're at this point, we're back to kind of doing what we do, which is on the streets, which is like helping out with homeless population, helping out with individuals that we care about. So we're just kind of back to doing that, and that's what we're about, anyways. That's like kind of our core foundation of who we are. So
when you said you felt compelled to speak out at the protest in San Rafael, what did that feel like when you were up there?
It just felt like a release of a lot of tension and a lot of anxieties. Being an African-American business owner in a place like Marin County, you learn how to like function and keep safe. You know what I mean? I've been pulled over. I have an incident where I was working at Shylock's. On my lunch break, I went to Chase up in Northgate to go deposit some money. I'm playing some music in my car, and I get out of the car, and as I'm turning my key off, I'm leaned over the car, and I'm turning my key off and getting ready to close my door. There's literally an officer like standing on my butt. Like I like bumped into him, and he's like, "You need to turn that music off," And I'm like, I'm getting out of my car, and
it's off.
It will be off in a second, but you're like standing over me. And he's like, "Do you got a problem here? You got, what's up?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, here we go." Because when an officer says that, for Black people, that's some serious stuff. Do we have a problem here? That can turn into a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
I'm on my lunch break, driving up from San Rafael to Northgate to go to Chase and make a deposit. I have like $5,000 in my pocket as well, right? And I'm getting ready to make a deposit. He asked me, we got a problem? I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
But I think you do with me right now. So whatever it is that you want to do right now, you're going to do it. But I'm not going to kiss your butt, and I'm not going to play this game with you because I haven't done anything. And then he's like, that's it. Stand behind the car. Put your hands on the car. Basically starts searching my car, rips my door open, has me hemmed up against the door. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is how it's going to go, huh? And he's like, yeah, this is how it's going to go. And he was like a younger guy, a rookie. And a lot of times they send rookies down to Marin County because there's nothing to do here, and they're all hot-headed. And the dude handcuffs me, everything, dips into my pockets, pulls out a wad of money, and is like, what's this? And I'm like, it's money.
Yeah.
And, he takes all my stuff out of my pocket and literally throws me in the car. My car is sitting at the bank. I'm on my lunch break. I have clients in like 40 minutes, right? He takes me to the Marin County,
sheriff's office right there at the Civic Center.
No.
Oh, he arrests me.
Oh.
He arrests me because of a suspicious amount of money or something or whatever. Takes me to the county and like books me, or tries to book me at least. Goes in, we get in there, I'm in handcuffs in the processing room. And he walks up to the lady, the woman that was the thing, and she's like, so what's the deal? And he like doesn't really have much to say to her. It's like, he's just under arrest. And I'm like, look, I didn't do anything. This guy like harassed me. I'm yelling at this point. I'm pissed. I'm like, you know, da, da, da. And he's like, well, well, you have a warrant for your arrest for like a ticket that you had in like, you know, 3 years ago. Or I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, well, how would I have gotten a license?
Right.
How would I have re-upped my license and da, 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 and I'm calling him out like right there, and he realizes that he's like doesn't have a leg to stand on, and the woman's looking at me and I'm looking at her, and she's heard what I said because I have my licenses, all my registrations current, everything, and she looks at him in a kind of a weird way. And I'm like, so what is this so-called bail, or what do I owe, or whatever? And she's like, yeah, it's like $1,000 for the ticket that you had, or whatever, or something like that. And I'm like, I have $1,000 in my pocket right there. Can I pay this supposed ticket and get out of here? And she looks at him, and he looks at her, and she's like, well, I don't see why not. They take my money and release me and give me the rest of my money. And I have to walk from the Civic Center, I don't know if you know where that is, but all the way over to Northgate
They make you
to
walk.
the Chase.
Oh my God.
They have to walk back.
And I just made it back in time for my client. I was like 5 minutes late. I called Barb up. I'm like, and I didn't even want to tell anybody what had happened.
Yeah.
I just went there, I finished my clients up, and I was done with the day. So there you go. I mean, you know, we've all had these experiences. It was time for me to kind of come out and say what's up and like come out from behind the shadows, because everybody I know has a story like that if you've lived in Marin or in the United States.
Maybe more than one.
Oh, yeah. So it felt like a good time to kind of like let people know, yeah, I'm here being successful, doing my thing, whatever, but I got to play a certain role, a certain game. And I got to watch my back, you know, and be careful, you know, because I could end up under somebody's prison or dead, you know, with just the wrong interaction with the police officer.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
You also have a balance, I would imagine, as a business owner now that you want to strike, right? You be careful. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure. I would imagine it's been. I can only imagine how it's been to stay silent,
Right.
and I applaud you. I don't know. You know, I don't have the right words.
I hear you.
I respect you for speaking out.
Right. Because I didn't want to. Amy really wanted to. I didn't, because I don't want to risk my business.
Well, that's exactly where I was going next.
Yeah.
You have to think about that, I would
I
imagine.
had to think about that, and I've been playing I've been playing possum for a long time, and Amy really wanted to strike out. Amy wanted to, like, you know, say a bunch, but then again, Amy's a Caucasian woman who's not afraid to strike out. I'm like, you can behave in a lot of ways that I can't. Remember that.
It's easy to
You know?
become indignant.
Right.
I think I sit in a very similar seat to Amy. I get mad.
Get mad,
I
yeah.
get mad on your behalf right now.
Right. And I let her. There are certain things that I sick Amy on, you know, she's the dog, you know, and go get him. And I'm going to go do this because we are in a unique position and situation. So I leverage all of it. And I'm smart about it, and she's smart about it, and we have to be, because it's our livelihood and it's our lives, you know what I mean? So, and we have children to think about, you know,
Absolutely.
and we have, you know, our lives to think about. So, yeah, I mean, it's been, interesting. And we lost some people, you know what I mean? But then we gained some people, you know, and we're still kind of recovering from all of it. I mean, we've been okay in business, but, you know, in order to get your new batch of like-minded individuals to come into your home, which is your business, you might have to take a little hit, and you might have to rebuild, and that's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I started with nothing anyway, so I'm never afraid to lose it all and like start all over again. I don't never think I can't just restart. I'm never scared to restart. So, you know.
And maybe that's what this life is, right?
Totally.
I'm grateful and humbled by the conversation, grateful for the conversation, humbled by your honesty. So thank you for this time.
Yes. It was
And
great.
You can find Bishlam at Salon B on 4th Street.
That's right. We're at 886 4th Street in San Rafael. We're mostly like appointment only based. We don't really have a lot of walk-in and stuff like that. So, but yeah, you can check us out at salonbsanrafael.com. You can check us out on Instagram at Salon B San Rafael. You can check us out on Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And we're pretty responsive to that, or Amy is definitely responsive. And just come check us out or stop by the store, you know.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Since Since we met with Bishlam for this interview, Salon B was awarded the 2022 San Rafael Chamber of Commerce Small Business of the Year Award. Congratulations to Bishlam, Amy, and the entire team at the salon. If you want to join the conversation or make suggestions, we'd love to hear from you at weareonemarin@gmail.com. The Marin Community Foundation generously sponsors this podcast. Our theme music is performed by a student at Enriching Lives Through Music. Elm is in San Rafael's Canal neighborhood. Finally, a reminder to support diverse local businesses and shop Marin.